Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Kevin McDonald, and I really we need to figure out how we're going to make this make this a little bit more inclusive, because I have a co-host today, and his name is John Verico, and so you need to probably know that at one point in time, but we'll bring him on right now. John, how are you?
I'm doing great, Kevin. How are you?
I'm doing awesome as always, and I want to thank you very much because you brought our guest of honor to the show today, and I'm excited to talk to him about all the things he's done. Why don't I just step aside and let you introduce Rutherford and what he does and why he's important to all of us.
I'm actually going to let him tell us that story, but I'm just going to tell you, I met Rutherford through a networking group, and we all happen to be a bunch of co-authors in the Art of Connection book series. And I was just so impressed with him and what he is doing. He has a company called Glasswall Leadership, and what he does is he helps leaders become better leaders. And he helps good leaders become better leaders, and he helps great leaders become even better. I think that's the way it goes, something like that. He's really good about working with people and helping them to develop their leadership skills and their communication skills. And I was just impressed with him. And I said, you know what? We need to have you come and talk with folks on our show. So that's where we are. So let's bring in Rutherford Pascal. Rutherford, come on aboard here. And thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You are a very special individual that has done a lot. And tell us your story, if you wouldn't mind.
My business story. So I started about 30 something years ago, but I won't go through all the terrible details, but I'll say the last 30 years I spent in pharmaceutical leadership, right? So I started with a company called Bristol Myers Squibb, spent 10 years there, then moved to another big company, spent a few years there. And then the last 20 years, 19 years specifically, I spent with my last company, going from first line leader, second line, third line, fourth line leader, which is where I ended up as a VP of sales for a very this product that I sold is seen on commercials probably every 5 or 6 minutes. There's a commercial for the product that I represented. So that's what I parted. And that whole thing, like John was talking about, leadership is. Yeah, in that we started with 89 reps and 9 managers, and in 3.5 years grew to 600 reps and 60 direct managers and another 15 managers reporting to me. So it's been a pretty good journey.
It's quite a bit of growth there in the corporate entity, in the corporate world. But you learned a lot about managing people and leading people, and there's a great big difference between management and leadership.
That is it. So the easiest way I can explain managing and leading is you lead people and you manage things, right? So you can manage the budget. So that's a thing. You can manage your time, but you lead people. At least that's the way it's supposed to be. You should be leading people and not managing them. When I would tell somebody, if you don't let me, I don't want to manage you, right? Because I don't want to manage every portion of their time and business. I want to make sure that I'm leading them so they could lead themselves in the future. So leadership is very, 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 very important. It's the most important thing I think of when in growing a business. We just went through this thing called the pandemic. I think you guys might have remembered it just a few years back.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you look at those companies that succeeded, some of those restaurants that did better in the pandemic. They did better, and because they saw how they looked at what am I doing? What do I need to change to get this product that I have to my customers in a different way, right? One of the you guys have heard of this restaurant called the French Laundry?
I'm not familiar with that one.
French Laundry is this unbelievably great restaurant in Yountville, California. It's by Thomas Keller's the chef, and it's always like the first or second best restaurant in the United States or the world. I can't keep up, but it's expensive. So just to get in, if you call there today, you might be able to get in late 2025, early 26, if you call today.
Now, just for reservation,
just for reservation, just for reservation.
So just for reference, okay,
Yes.
because this show is evergreen. Let's put this in time frame. We're recording this show in December of 24.
Yes, exactly.
So you're saying this restaurant, to get reservations at a restaurant, you're talking 6 to 12 months out.
If you're lucky, sometimes it's longer than that, right? And it's 7 to 8 courses. It's spectacular. But the story is, you walk in and it's $450, right? So just as soon as you walk in, that's the minimum. I mean, it's a very 7-course meal. You don't go there on a budget, okay? Right?
I guess not. And I guess they can charge what they want if they've got a waiting list that's 8 months a year out. They can pretty much charge what they want.
It's an experience. So during the pandemic, like every other restaurant, they couldn't have people in the restaurant, right? So they did something unique. So they didn't. So they started boxing their meals. So instead of having these 7-course dinners, they did these box meals, and they were selling it for, between $75 and $120. And all of a sudden, you could say, "I had dinner at the French Laundry," right? And they never fired anybody, right? They did really well. And that's just an example of how leadership is so important in any times. Anytime something fails, it's leadership. You can look at sports teams, you can look at elections, you can look at everything. It's always leadership.
Do you believe that leadership is born, or can it be taught?
It's taught. Do people have there's some people that have some innate abilities in leadership. There's no question, but there's so much that you can learn and grow from being taught. You are born with certain innate skills, but every one of us has to learn. I mean, if you think about this, most CEOs and most great CEOs have a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Why would they have a coach if it was born? They need that. They need that coach, and their leadership needs has coaches too.
Well, it's true. I think people learn their initial leadership skills by watching and experiencing those around them, right? So people they work for, people they've seen, people they've heard about. And so what we do is we look at the behavior of those people and we decide which behaviors we want to emulate and make part of the way that we are going to treat other people. And so, I know for me, when I had a boss that motivated me to do better, that made me feel good, those were the skills I wanted to emulate. And when I had a boss that denigrated me or made me feel like, I was worthless, those were skills that I did not want to emulate. But I made those choices of which skills I wanted to kind of add to my menu of abilities. But I think when you have a coach kind of helps you to refine and define all of this, right?
Absolutely, 100%. That's everyone. There's always something that there's a limit. So, I'm a John Maxwell coach, and John Maxwell always talks about there's a level of coaching from 1 to 10, and 10 being the best. If you think about your leadership skills, if you're a 6 or a 7, your team can't be higher than a 5 or a 6. They can't, because you're muting their growth. In order for them to grow, you have to grow as a leader. So it's important that you keep growing, getting better in your leadership skills in order to grow. So growth is such an important part of this. It's what makes this thing great.
So there needs to be a piece of humility in this too, right? Understanding that you don't know it all and that you do need to grow. Let me ask you this, Rutherford, for the sake of people who are listening and tuning into this show and say, hey, this talk about leadership, that's all fine and dandy, but I'm not in a position of leadership.
So that's funny.
You see where this is going. Go for it, man.
Yeah, because I will tell you, everyone leads, right? So when I was a first line leader, I told everybody that we lead. We don't wait for me to lead. If I'm going to train you and coach you, I want you to take leadership responsibilities in your area of expertise. Whatever you do, you lead. And if you're great at it, you tell me what to do, right? It's the collective. The reason that we were always successful is we listened to the collective. They were telling us what to do, what best to do. Because honestly, if you left it up to the complete leadership, we would make many, many, many more mistakes. We wouldn't do. Every single person on the team is a leader.
That's at one level or another.
Absolutely.
And if they're just getting started, I got to ask you though, leadership is so important. Why are there so many companies that don't employ great leadership skills?
That is a great question. That's why I have a job. I think Kevin and others is it's one of those things that needs to be trained. So when things are going wrong, there's always what's the first thing to get taken away when business gets soft? It's usually training, anything that's not revenue generating. And so that's when the training of leaders, that's where that comes up. It's they don't have enough foresight to keep that going. And it always goes. It always goes. It's terrible.
First place they cut budget is in the training area, because they don't see it as a direct impact on the bottom line.
No.
But yet it's the ability of people to be able to communicate with each other, the ability of people to stay up on their skills and know what's going on in the industry and all of that stuff that comes from training, whether it's direct product training or if it's soft skills training. Those skills and the ability to have those skills is what enables you to have a bottom line, because you're not going to have a sale if your people don't know how to sell. And if you don't, you're not going to have a sale or not going to have a product to sell if people aren't staying up on the latest things going on in whatever industry it is of the product. So training is got to stay on the docket. But yet you're right. And I worked in government for 42 years. That was the first place that budget got cut, was in the training.
Yeah. Hey, so I have to tell you guys something. I think I told you I was in this new house, and
and we have lost Rutherford's connection.
Yes, we have, and hopefully he'll get that back. But one of the questions I was going to ask him, and John, you've been in business for a long time now. In the government, they didn't have P&Ls necessarily that they did on a weekly, monthly, or yearly basis per department, did they?
What did you call it? A P&L?
Profit and loss statement.
Oh, yeah. No, not like that. They did evaluations on the effectiveness of their various programs, but it's not like we had, there was not products that we were selling, so we weren't tracking sales. We were tracking impact of the various programs in the government, whether it was an environmental program or whatever it was, depending on the agency.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that I was going to ask him about was that I've never seen a P&L or a profit and loss statement that had a line on it, because you know how it works is they've got a line like food costs, port costs, labor costs, stuff like that going down, and then you have you made money or you lost money at the bottom line. But I've never seen a line where they talk about turnover. And actually
turnover and retention.
Yeah, turnover of the employees of what you're trying to do. And they never talk about that, but it's an important aspect of running a business, because if your turnover is high, you're continually in training mode, and you're never going to get to where what Rutherford was talking about, getting to a 7 or 8 or a 9, because you're continually training new people, because you're fundamentally flawed as a leader.
And that is so exceptionally true. And I've seen that. And retention is a huge issue, not just in corporate world, but in government, in nonprofit, in every sector. Once you've got good people and they're trained and they know the product and they know the customer base and all that other stuff, it takes a lot to get somebody else ramped up to that level. So you want to keep those good people.
I always told my people that if we lose a key employee, it takes 5 hires to get that level of worker back.
Oh, absolutely.
And so that's one of the things that I'm really, really high on is training and leading people to be the best that they can be. And in case you guys are wondering, we have got Rutherford Pascal, who is a trainer and a business executive. I can't imagine, John, I can't imagine having 60 reports and 600 or 700 reports under them. It would take, just to have a meeting, would take like going to a stadium.
Yeah, the challenge when something gets that big is you've got to rely on being able to have smaller meetings that then the information gets passed down, so things are done in smaller groups. But then you've got kind of like playing the telephone game and hoping that the information translates all the way down the way it was translated from the top, and that doesn't always happen.
Nope, hardly.
There was when I worked for the Navy Public Works Center, and there was the organization was approaching its 10th anniversary. So they wanted to hold a big celebration to acknowledge the 10th anniversary of the services that they were providing. Now, this was a bunch of blue collar shops spread out over several military bases in the Washington, D.C. area. And these were the guys who were, the carpenters, the plumbers, the motor pool guys, all of those kind of folks who, they're working hard every day. And, they didn't necessarily have an opportunity to go and do a celebration event. But the leadership said, we really want this to be about the employees. We really want the employees to be able to come and enjoy, take some time away from the hard stuff, unless you're actually on watch in the power plant or something. but everybody who could, we want maximum participation to come out here to this event, and enjoy and celebrate themselves. And so they set it up. They had 3 admirals coming to speak. They had the Navy band set up, all of this kind of a thing. They laid out 600 chairs out in the gardens at the Navy Yard, and we're getting ready to do this event. And 60 people showed up. Those 60 people came out of the headquarters building only because somebody went running around the office going, "Get outside, come, it's time to go do this thing. The admirals are waiting." And the reason why there was such low attendance is because even though the leadership put out, "Hey, we want maximum participation and flexibility for people to be able to attend," and it went down to the second level manager in the front. By the time it got to the frontline supervisor in the morning meeting said, "Hey, there's some shindig up at headquarters coming. You can go if you want to, but you're going to have to make up the time."
Oh, good. And people at that point said, ain't going.
Yeah. And so the thing is, too, that sometimes when it's that big and that spread out, there's a disconnect between the folks who are in the field offices and the folks who are at the headquarters level. And so because of that, and because of they're always relying on the passed down version of the message, things don't always get through. And people in the field don't actually affiliate or acknowledge their connection to the headquarters. So I remember taking the brand new executive officer came in and he said, "Well, let's go and visit the sites."
Hold on, John. Before you go into that, we're late, but John's going to finish that story when we come back. We'll be right back. Are you looking for a powerful way to grow your brand while making a real difference? Well, Positive Talk is the perfect platform to align your message with inspiration, hope, and meaningful conversations. By sponsoring Positive Talk, your brand will reach an engaged audience that values positivity and connection. People who want to support companies that share their values. Take this opportunity to showcase your business in a space that uplifts, inspires, and creates lasting impact. Don't wait. Email me, Kevin@kmmedia.pro today to learn how you can partner with us and spread positivity while growing your brand. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald and John Verico. He's right there. Hey, John, you know that song that I was playing? That one?
Yeah.
That's my song.
That's the theme song.
Yes, and we own that baby.
Oh, that's really awesome. I never realized that.
Yeah. So a gentleman by the name of Tommy Tika. He is out of Sweden. And he wrote that song and he performed and it's also a vocal that I took out for this portion. And he wrote it and it's actually gotten like 15,000 views on Facebook and or on Twitter, not Twitter. What's the one? Sketcher, not Sketcher. Anyway,
Really?
What is it? What's it called? You're just gonna let me hang here, aren't you?
I have no idea. I mean, what, YouTube? What is it? It's just the audio, right? So it's a song. Is it on?
Yeah, it's on Spotify. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, John, for reminding me of that. Anyway, go ahead and tell us your tell us your story.
Oh, before the break, I was talking about sometimes the disconnect that happens from senior management of an organization and people who are distant from that senior management, like they're in a field office or they're the frontline workers and that kind of stuff. And so the larger an organization, the bigger that disconnect. And I remember we had a brand new executive officer come in at the Navy Public Works Center, and he said, I really don't, I'm trying to get an understanding for the layout of this organization. And I said, well, that's great. I said, because people don't know who you are. So let's go around and introduce you. And so, he was implementing some changes and stuff. Okay, great. So we said, let's set up these little town hall meetings in geographic areas where our people were clustered, and we would have these group meetings with those folks. And so here he is coming in talking about, some changes that are happening in the organization and all that. And there's a guy sitting there in the back of the room, his arms crossed, funny look on his face. And so, finally, he opened it up for questions. After the commander had given some talk, and he opened it up and he said, anybody have any questions? And the guy sitting in the back goes, yeah. Who the hell are you? And why should we be listening to you? Complete disconnect. And so here was part of it, is that I'd mentioned that this organization, being primarily blue collar guys who were in the field working, turning the wrenches, keeping the power on and keeping the motor pool going and driving the shuttle buses and, mowing the lawns and shoveling the snow and doing the plumbing and carpeting. They didn't have a desk job working at their computers. They barely even had organizational email accounts because they didn't have a computer for their work. They literally reported to the shop, picked up their tools. Actually, they kept their tools in the back of their truck. They picked up their marching orders for the day. Okay, go and fix this plumbing and go repair that, whatever it is. And that was it. So they didn't look at email. Well, the leadership was communicating everything via email. So they put out information to email to the workforce. Well, only about 10% of the workforce was actually seeing these emails. And a very small percentage of the frontline leadership was translating what was happening in these messages from headquarters all the way down. So here this guy comes in and he goes, hi, I'm your new boss. And like, we never heard of you. How long have you been here? 6 months. I sent an email.
It's
you have to know. The whole point of that is you have to know your organization. You have to know your people. You have to know their preferred way of being communicated with, and really understand that. And that's the difference between a leader and a manager.
That's real true. And you also have to understand the nature of the job these people are doing. If you don't really understand why somebody's doing what they're doing and why and what reasons they have for doing it that way, and then you come in, and this happens all the time, I'm sure in government, and it does everywhere else. A new guy comes in and he says, why are you doing it this way? Because I think we should do it this way. And then the workforce comes back and says, oh no, we did that way 5 managers ago, and that didn't work now. And so we know more, a hell of a lot more than you do. And so you need to get a grip. And
I love it when a new person in leadership position, I will not call them a leader, but a new person in a leadership position comes in and they say, I'm here to fix this organization. What are we? What are we, like a bunch of stray cats? We need to be fixed. What do you mean? I don't understand. Why do you think we're broken in the first place?
Because somebody told me that you were broken, and we're going to go ahead and fix it. Or
the fact that you had a change in the management structure tells us that you must have been broken all along.
Or there is a new sheriff in town, and they're appointing people who have no earthly idea what it is that you're doing. Mm-hmm. They just want you to do it for either less money or do 2 jobs for what used to be, 2 jobs that used to be 3 jobs, and then they're cutting the staffing and stuff like that just because they want to achieve a certain result, but it may not be achievable based upon the way that the whole system works.
Yeah, well, you know it is, Kevin. Nobody is satisfied with the flavor of the soup until everybody had a chance to urinate in it.
Yeah. Now there's one way to put it. Or like I'll give you an example. When I was in management and in the restaurant business, and I had a restaurant in Federal Way that perennially all the time lost money, and so I had a 300% turnover. So I get there and turnover drops to less than 100%. We start making money for the first time in like a dozen years of that particular restaurant. It was Garcia's of Scottsdale. They're no longer in business. Surprise, surprise. And we had, and the business where I was going, the bar business was going great because we were giving away free appetizers and we had free bean dip at every table and all of this kind of stuff that we were known for. And then we get a new district sales manager who comes in from Arizona, which is where the corporate office is, and they do things differently in Arizona than they do in Washington because we were treating it like it was a neighborhood restaurant and bar. So that local people would want to come in and they got used to it. And I put a jukebox in and we put darts in and people had a real good time. And then he came in and said, that's not how we do it here. And I said, pardon me? And he said, no, get rid of the free appetizers. And what we're going to do is we're going to do appetizers for like $2 or $3 that they can buy. And it's like, I said, that's not going to work. And he said, why not? And I said, because they're used to free app. And we had wings, we had burritos, we had nachos, we had all kinds of stuff on this appetizer bar during happy hour that people could just come up and take what they wanted. And But
you made that up. You made that up in so much more. You made that up with the other sales.
Oh, yeah. Well, the interesting thing is, when you look at how the restaurant business works, your liquor cost is about 20 to 22%. Is Rutherford, has he talked to us? Anyway.
No, Rutherford had some technical issues, so we're hoping he gets back to us. But
if not, we'll have to have him back on. But
yeah, we'll definitely bring him back.
Yeah. So let's take a break first of all and see if he manages to reappear magically. You're listening to Positive Talk and watching Positive Talk with John Verico and Rutherford just came back. Let's take the break and we will be right back.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
You are all about having a good experience and listening to positive podcasts. Now, when you're online, you can have a positive browsing experience too. Connect to NordVPN server when you go online. NordVPN makes it simple, safe, and secure for you to explore the wide world on the web. Visit NordVPN/Positive Talk Radio. Again, that's NordVPN/Positive Talk Radio to get our 71% discount savings when you visit NordVPN/Positive Talk Radio. You can try it risk-free for 30 days and stay safe while you're online at NordVPN/Positive Talk Radio.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald and John Verico and Rutherford Pascal. Thank you so much, sir, for coming back.
Hey, you see, I have a new location, right? You notice the background's different. I had to. It's been quite an experience today.
Technological difficulties are always fun and challenging, but you know what? We're so glad to have you back. And just first, before we go any further in the conversation, that last commercial, it's nordvpn.com/positive talk radio. So remember that .com. Those of you who are listening and weren't seeing it on the screen, if you're listening to the audio, it's nordvpn.com/positive talk radio for that special discount deal. Just had to throw that out there in that clarification because it's on the screen on the YouTube version, but on the audio version, people don't catch that. Okay. So welcome back, Rutherford. And so Kevin and I were just chatting about leadership stuff in general while you were gone. So I do want to kind of get back to our conversation. And one of the things that I'll relate a quick story, which I didn't get to before, but years ago, I was working in an organization and I was accused of having been falsely hired for falsifying my resume. And it was all because I had submitted a request to go to training. Mm-hmm. And they said, you obviously lied on your resume. I said, what are you talking about? Well, because your resume says that you have expertise in these fields. So why do you need to go to training? the fact that you're asking to go to training says that you don't know this topic. And I said, don't we need to stay up on skills? So how do you deal with a mentality like that? We talked about, just before we lost you to technical difficulties, we were talking about the fact that the first thing that happens, the first places people cut, and the first things that people critique are the training opportunities for folks. So how do you deal with that kind of a thing?
So here's what I think. I talk to people about growing. Healthy things grow. If we are standing still, that means we're falling behind, right? And it's just like I was telling you about the John Maxwell thing with you got to continue to grow. We have to get better. There's so many things that are happening right now that we have to continue to get better. It's the Carol Dweck's book about mindset and having a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. In order for us to continue to grow, you always have to grow. You always have to continue to get better and better. And you look at people who have spent a long time in their career. They're always learning. There's coaches. There's people that are never they're never satisfied with where they are. They know they can learn more. They know they can be better. So that's the thing that's what you tell somebody. If you're standing still and just relying on what you learned 5 years ago, 10 years ago, the world continues to grow and evolve. If there's this thing called AI that's learning and growing tremendously every day, everyone knows about AI, but that's happening in everything. It happens everywhere, right? So if you think about the things that you guys knew 10 years ago, there's not one thing that hasn't evolved. You can't. So I don't know if you guys have kids, but I was a finance major in college. Then my son asked me to do math homework. I can't do it. I was like, wow.
Somebody changed the math.
It changed the way they do it. Things evolve. They grow. Healthy things grow. So, yeah.
I aced all my math classes, but I can't do math. I can't do whatever this stuff is that they're doing.
Not at all.
I never understood why they wanted you to show your work. Even if you got the right answer, show your work. Show how you got there. Does it matter all that much how you got there if it's right? And I wanted to also mention the fact that there are organizations.
The other paper,
huh?
If I told them how I got there by peeking at Mary's paper.
There are organizations that treat people as employees as being in that particular space and time, and they're not interested in helping them achieve the greatness that's within them and to learn a lot more so that they can continue to develop. Because isn't it true that an organization that doesn't develop its own people is destined to die?
Absolutely. So there's a quote, and I'm going to mess it up, right? So
somebody join the club.
Somebody asked, why do we want to spend so much money getting them better? Because they're going to get better and leave. And the leader said, so you want to not train them and they don't get better and stay, right? So that's the way to think about it, because people are like, well, we're investing all this money in people, and 3 years from now they leave. You just had 3 good years. You had 3 really, really good years with somebody, and then hopefully you get somebody else and have 3, 4 more good years with that person. And they're not thinking about that. They're thinking about the departure instead of the value that individual add for the time that
is good. Yeah.
So go ahead, Kevin. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, so To my frame of mind, that doesn't make any sense at all, because they're going to leave in 3 years because somebody's willing to pay them more based upon the training that you gave them,
Yeah.
which, by the way, you could do too if you
Yes.
provided a good working environment and they were happy being there.
Yes, exactly. So we talked about, so leadership is, if that people leave managers, they don't leave work. They leave because, so to your point, Kevin, if you train them, if you continue to have them grow, to let them grow in their role, they don't even have to be growing for a promotion. Just have them grow and learn more in the role. They will stay. They will stay because you are investing in them. You think of them. You think they can grow, and that's the big misnomer. Is you see these in a lot of the companies. There's a hierarchy. There's these are our rising stars or our future leaders, and where the company invests so much time and money into them. And sometimes those aren't the people that are driving the most business or doing the best for the company, right? There's other people that have no interest in leading people, no interest in, but they're doing the best for the company, and they don't do anything. And then they're surprised that they left. I can't believe that Bob left. Wow.
Yeah, well, you ignored Bob. You didn't. He wasn't part of your chosen future leader. Yeah,
yeah. It happens all the time. It happens. There was a young lady I worked with. She was number one in the country 3 out of the last 4 years out of 4,000 people.
Wow.
She was good, but she had an interesting personality, kind of prickly. And it was depth. So then I managed. I got her at the end, and I was in the field with her. I was working with her, and she told me I was the first manager that had been in the field with her in 5 years.
Ah,
and because by the way, she was spectacular, but she was a little prickly, and she was great at what she did. So the leaders didn't think they could help her, right? They didn't think they could help her. So they just bypassed her and everybody else. And that actually made her more prickly. And so when I worked with her, it was fantastic. She was so nice. She thanked me, wrote me emails about what a great day we had. Thank you for investing time in me, trying to get me better. She was the number one rep in the country, and she wanted to get better.
Right. And so here she was. She was already number one. She was already great, but just a little tweaking, she could have even been even better. Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing that we don't see, and we tend to step out of the way and let people go, and then by not acknowledging them, by not staying with them, by not offering them opportunities to get even better, then they start feeling like, well, it doesn't make a difference to you anymore, right? If I don't matter, why am I here?
Yeah,
I'm going to take my stuff elsewhere.
Yeah,
the human mind is a very interesting thing, because even if you were to talk to her and say, look, you're number one in sales, why should I bother spending my time talking to you when you do such great work? I don't need to. But in her mind, she's going, I don't seem to matter to these people because they're not giving me the kudos or the attention that I need. And then this other company comes along and says, hey, babe, look at what we can do for you. We're going to romance you. And she says, well, these people clearly don't care. And these people they took me out to dinner. They are really excited about having me there. I'm going to go there. And that's how you lose. And like I was telling John while you were indisposed, I said, generally it takes 5 or 6 hires before you can attain the same level that you had with the original person who left. Do you agree with that?
I will say this to you. I've said this to people before. When you lose a talented individual, it costs the company 3 to 5 times that person's salary. 3 to 5 times that person, just to rehire that person. Okay. But then to get to the same level, if they're that talented, like this young lady was, they might never get back to that level. We at my last company, the number one rep in the company left. We have never gotten back. And the rep in the territory is good, but not not as
that caliber. Yeah.
No, just never. Even, by the way, not even really close. Even close.
Hope they're not listening to this show. Okay.
And Rutherford,
hey, we need to take a break.
Okay.
And when we come back, I know, and Kevin's got a question too, but when we come back, I definitely want to talk about how people can help themselves in their own growth process, about, about what they believe and about their own selves.
Sure. Absolutely.
And we shall return in just a moment. You're listening to Positive Talk with Kevin and John, and we'll be right back.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
Erco is with me, and we've got a great guest. His name is Rutherford Pascal, and he's a business coach and a leadership coach, and can do a lot for you. And he's run. I don't know how you do this. I asked John, and John has a question, so I'll let him go, and then I'll ask mine.
No, ask your question, then we'll go into it.
You were in charge of 60 first line. No. I think it was like 13 or 14 first line supervisors, 60 second line supervisors, and 600 to 800 sales reps. Am I correct in that, or was it more?
A little, no, it's less. It's around that. It's around that number. Yeah, something like that.
How do you do that? I mean, you've got to have a tremendous team around you,
yes,
and trust them implicitly that what you say and the ideas that are brought together are going to be enacted in a manner that works for you and represents who you are. Is that right?
So it's funny because one of the things that John, when he talked about me, is this company's Glass Walls Leadership, and we grow leaders. And so that whole time when I was with the last company, we put leaders in place that mirrored the values we had in the company, and they treated people well. They did great work, right? They cared about the customer, cared about the company, and so that's the thing. That's the thing that's really important. So people would always ask me, Kevin, they would say, so what keeps you up at night? And I would say nothing. I sleep really well, and the reason I sleep really well is if you hire the right people and all around you, they're fine. You're gonna get things early. I've always talked about people being proactive. You know what's interesting is there's certain things that happen every month or every quarter, every month. Yeah. Some people are surprised when it happens. Oh yes, the end of the quarter. So I always try to talk to the leaders about getting prepared. Listen, we know we have year-end reviews to do. We know we have these things to do. Let's get this thing prepared.
It's not like you haven't done them before. You know it's coming.
Yeah, make it easy on yourself. Make it easy on your team too. Get it prepared so there's not this like last minute, Black Friday shopping type of event when you have to get things done. Nobody likes fire drills. Nobody likes fire drills, and if we can avoid them, we do that, and we do that by being proactive and being prepared. It's one of the things that I talk about all the time is preparation. For me, the most important thing in growing the team is preparing for. That's why we were able to, when we grew the team from 85 to over 600 people, 90% of the leaders came from within. That was because we were prepared, we were intentional, we trained, we thought about it. We knew we were going to grow because of the product was going to grow. So we wanted to build all that infrastructure. So we spent a lot of time, grooming these talented people for future growth roles. That's another reason why people stayed, because the culture was a growth culture. They felt like they were invested. They felt invested in the company, and that was really important.
John?
Hey, so we're already getting close to out of time, but I wanted to address the things that the kinds of things that you teach. What are the things that you need to tell people to help them to become better leaders themselves? And I know you talk a lot about believing your beliefs and doubting your doubts. And could you go into that just a little bit with the last few minutes that we have? Yeah.
So believing your beliefs is the most important thing that I think in anybody's business. Is a leader, as an entrepreneur, you have to believe 100% of what you do, what you say in your product, right? Because if you don't believe it, the people around you are not going to believe it, right? And so you have to believe. So there's too many times we believe our doubts and we doubt our beliefs. I believe that you should have an irrational belief in your ability, what you're doing, your product, whatever it is, and it's got to be rational. Kevin and John, if you're rational, you'll get mediocre results. Right? If you're, let me just say something that was irrational in the 1970s. Having a computer in your hand that's more powerful than Apollo 11. That was irrational. That's irrational. How could that happen? By the way, we're on this call in 3 different places, right? On a screen. 15 years ago, that's irrational. That's an irrational belief. So so if you're going to be great, you need to be irrational. I don't want rational thinking, right? In that situation. I want you to think big, think grow. And everybody can be great if they still have that irrational belief in their ability, their greatness that they're put on this earth for. They need to have that irrational belief. If they do that, great things will happen to them, and for their community.
Rutherford, you could tell we're irrational. That's how come we have 1.6 million listeners.
And they must be irrational too. But that's
there we go. Because none of it makes sense. No, seriously. But then the other side of this now is doubting your doubts. And we only have a couple of minutes, but I'd like to try to touch on that piece, because I think that's a really critical aspect to our ability to grow.
Yeah. So the doubts that we have, there's so many doubts that people, they have, and they're told constantly. You're told all these doubts, and you doubt yourself about everything. I don't think I can do this. I'm too short. I'm too this. I'm too that. You're always too something, right? And there's history that none of that matters. It's been proven wrong over and over again. It's why are you different? The answer is you're not. If you really believe there's something, everybody that doubts you everybody that doubts you, that's what you should use. There's the famous story I can tell you is, Michael Jordan, right? Michael Jordan used that power of doubt in his ability. Like, he didn't make his high school team, and he used that negative behavior, that negative thing that happened to him to propel him in his entire career. He constantly made up people not believing in him. So he took that doubt and he made it powerful. He used it as fuel. So I don't know if you guys know this. So when Michael Jordan went into the Hall of Fame, the person that the coach picked instead of him, he invited to his Hall of Fame. This person, and by the way, Michael Jordan was 5'6", 5'7" at the time. This guy was 6'4". So the coach was, this is like a sophomore in high school. So the coach wasn't crazy, right? But Michael Jordan used that, remembered it, and he brought so much so that he brought this guy to his acceptance speech for the Hall of Fame. And he called him out in the speech. He said, that guy up there. So the doubt that coach had in him, he used as fuel. So you can use that if you have that type of mentality to propel you forward. But if you're not that type of person, you have to take when people's doubt and just understand that you need to believe stronger in yourself than that person doubts in what you're doing and how you're doing it. The belief has to supersede, overpower that doubt. But you're gonna have doubt. By the way, we all have doubts. But they doubt
that.
But they have to be. They can't consume you. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking not having doubts. You're going to have some doubts, but it can't consume you, and you should be able to say, I can still do this. I can still do this.
Don't let the doubts drive you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what they say, every time you're looking at taking a chance on something, the first 10 things that come to your mind are the last 10 times you failed. And so you got to get past that and then move forward. Hey, you've been listening to Positive Talk Radio with Kevin McDonald, and I'm John Verico, and our special guest this evening has been Rutherford Pascal.
You know, you're getting really good at this, John. I'm going to have to fire you because you're getting too good. I got to tell you. But I did want to say, and this, I would really love to see, Rutherford, if businesses would start including a new item on their P&L. And I would love for them to start including cost of turnover, because that will be a very big indicator as to the long-term viability of the business. I have never seen a P&L written like that. Have you?
No, it's not. There's hard cost and the soft cost. The hard costs are pretty easy to figure out. The soft costs are actually sometimes much greater, right? And we did an analysis of that, and you can spend it's a lot of people's time invested in filling a position, and then you're getting somebody that's like one notch below the person you had. Cost you a lot, right? And you got to get to new customers have to like this person, or the people on their team surrounding them in the office have to. It can take a long time. Kevin, if they did that, they would treat people much better. I think your idea is fantastic. They would treat people much better.
Absolutely. And as individual, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if that was part of a supervisor's
year-end review,
yeah, exactly.
That would change how they viewed that, because it's expensive. Turnover is needless and it's expensive.
Yeah.
And Rutherford Pascal has been our guest. You're going to have to come back and we're going to have to fill in the gap of when you were away from us for a little bit.
I can't wait the kind of stories you were telling. I missed those stories. I'm gonna watch it.
You have to come back and watch it. It'll be on YouTube right after we hit the disconnect button. But we've got to wrap this up. Pascal, Rutherford Pascal, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
You're awesome. And if somebody wants to reach you again, how do they do it?
glasswallsleadership.com.
That's easy.
Perfect.
glasswallsleadership.com.
Piece of cake.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin@kmmedia.pro.